Oh, Mike's muted. You guys didn't catch any of that. I don't know what's going on. Okay, now you guys can hear me. So he says my mic is muted, but there you go. I appreciate it. Um, but yeah, so here we are. It's week 3, and the show must go on. But listen, let's just jump straight into it. So there are 6 teams in my mind that have shown a willing, or not a willing, a capability of winning some games and possibly making a name for themselves here as we go on. I know it's still early, but here are my list of contenders versus pretenders. I'm going to run down their names of the teams, and I'm going to give you some kind of points and then let you know what I think about them in the end. Are they contenders or pretenders? First team I'm going to start out west in the AFC West, to be exact, is the LA Chargers. Now, they've had 2 pretty dominating performances. I won't say dominating, but at least dominating from a run game standpoint. J.K. Dobbins has been tremendous the last 2 weeks against the Raiders and the Panthers. Granted, it's the Raiders and the Panthers, but the Raiders defense is pretty good. The Panthers, not so much, a different story, right? So I think the coaching transition has definitely changed this franchise in the right direction. I think hiring Jim Harbaugh has been uh, something that was well needed for this organization, because the last guy they had there, Brandon Staley, I believe his name was, wasn't getting it done. And I think with this style of offense, it's going to help protect and preserve Justin Herbert at this point. What I also like about this team is the offensive line. You know, they've had guys already there, right? Then you go out and get the kid from Notre Dame, I think Joe Alt, to kind of shore up that offensive line even furthermore, right? So you got to love that type of stuff. And other guys are starting to step up a little bit. Guys that I myself have written off, right? It's still early. Guys like Quentin Johnson, right? Looked like a bust last year, right? Now, I'm not going to say he's the next coming of whatever great wide receiver, but he's looking to be an effective red zone type of threat, which he should be. The guy is like 6 foot, whatever, 7, whatever. He's a tall guy. He should be that guy. So, I think for them, they've had a lot go well this way as far as the schedule's been concerned, right? You got the Raiders at home, and then you play the Carolina Panthers, right? So, um, my only downfall with them right now is that their schedule may be a little bit more tasking. They got a great matchup today in the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I'll talk about that later on. So at the end of the day, do I think they are a contender or a pretender? I think right now I'm gonna have to say they are pretenders at this point. Um, and although I do like the story, I do like what they're doing moving forward. I just don't know if they'll have enough in the tank. Like, can they continuously run the football the way they've been running it? Right? Will that be effective in the modern NFL? Right? We've seen some teams kind of do a little bit of it, but not so much. This team is like run heavy off the rep. If they get behind in a game, will that offense be able to catch back up? And you got some offenses in the AFC that they're going to have to keep up with if that time comes. So right now, I'm going to say the LA Chargers are pretenders at this point in time. So, all right, the next team, the team that they're actually playing today, the Pittsburgh Steelers, we all know their exploits. They have 2 quarterbacks, when Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is still hurt. There's a quarterback controversy because a lot of people are saying, well, what we're asking, what if Russell Wilson is healthy? Do you stick with Justin Fields? Do you not? Right? So one thing about this defense, about this team is the defense, right? Elite top tier defense, no doubt about it. This is the strong point. Mike Tomlin has always had a really good defense. Historically, the Pittsburgh Steelers have always had a good defense. That's just what they've been up. That's what they've been known for, right? Occasionally, they will have a really talented offensive group. Is this group talented? They got some guys, right? You got George Pickens, of course. You got the 2 running backs and Najee Harris and Warren back there. Offensive line has been much improved and revamped. So like the Chargers, I think they want to run the football as well too, and that's going to be their keys to success, right? So they don't quite have the talent at quarterback, at least from my eyes. I mean, Justin Fields he's a quarterback and he's getting the job done, but this offense is still kind of lacking that down the field type of threat that you're going to have to need in the end. Now, as this defense we know is elite, I just mentioned that, right? But in the end, I'm not sure if this team is constructed to compete consistently with like the Chiefs, right? If if the Bengals ever figure out, we know the Texans can put up points, right? These are the teams you're going to have to deal with in the AFC. I think they'll make these games sporting, but I'm not quite sure if they're ready yet, because the whole quarterback situation to me is a little bit on the concerning side for me, because you don't know what you're going to get if Justin Fields continues to play. And I'm not saying he's playing terrible, but he's not playing at a level where you trust him as a quarterback to go make those deep throws or those intermediate throws that you need. He's just looking to tuck it and run. And I don't know if that's going to be sustainable moving forward for this team. So at the end of the day, I like the Steelers, but I think as of right now, they are pretenders in my book. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. All right, moving along. This team, surprising to me, and because I said I don't follow them a lot, I don't watch a lot of Saints football, and that's the New Orleans Saints. Now, they've taken the league by storm here in the first 2 weeks. The drubbing of the Cowboys last week on the road, and then they dismantled the Carolina Panthers too, putting up 91 points in 2 games. That's crazy to me. Scoring 6 touchdowns on 6 possessions consecutively against the Dallas Cowboys last week. Derek Carr looking like an early MVP candidate. Alvin Kamara looking like Alvin Kamara of old. I really like the Saints and what they've shown this past couple weeks, right? So, and I think now they're kind of emerging now as one of those teams in the NFC South. The NFC South is actually turning out to look like a pretty good division. You got them, you got the Falcons, and then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are also looking to make strides or continue their success from last year, right? So this team has shown, I'm talking about the Saints now, has shown significant improvement. I did not think they would be this good, especially offensively. And that's a credit to Clint Kubiak, right? Dennis Allen, who's their head coach, he was a lame duck. He might, again, it's still an early season. We don't know how this is all going to play out for sure, right? But as of right now, it looks like he saved his job. He has saved his job. And their defense, although it's a little bit older, but still effective. That was never a concern for me on this team. They've always pretty much had good defenses. It's just offensively, I didn't know what they were going to get, right? And what I've seen with Clint Kubiak's offensive scheme is that they want to run the ball in spurts, but then they also want to throw the ball down the field, which Derek Carr can do. And I bet you those Raider fans are probably like, damn, like what's up, right? I mean, although the Raiders just had a really big win last week, but still, I think this team is a contender in the NFC now. I think, every year you get one of these teams that's kind of like off the radar. And I think the Saints are contenders. I mean, you look at their offense, the way it's been playing, and if they continue to get better, right? And they still have offensive line issues that they need to solve, but those guys will be coming back soon off an injury, and they're only going to get better, right? So they have pretty good depth, pretty much wide receiver, on the defense and in skill positions, right? So I really like this team. I think that they are going to make some waves here. And they're going to definitely make the NFC South a little bit more interesting. So I like the Saints to be a contender. All right, we got the Seattle Seahawks 2-0. Geno Smith playing really well in a contract year. This team low-key is talented too. I mean, like you look at their wide receiving core and Jackson Smith and Jigba, DK Metcalf, the usual suspects in Tyler Lockett, who's just consistent, right? You don't talk about him as being a really good wide receiver because number one, they're in the Pacific Northwest, and he isn't as flashy as maybe some of the other guys on his team, like DK Metcalf. But Tyler Lockett is definitely one of those guys that you want on your team. Defensively, I really think that they're performing well. My only concern with them is their schedule, right? They've been basically served or will be served with early AFC teams that are like the weaker ones, like Denver. They had New England last week. That can make you look good from the jump, right? So we're going to see when they start getting into some of their tougher part of the schedule. That's going to show or reveal their true mettle, right? And who they are as a team. But right now, I'm going to say that they are pretenders because of that. Because we've seen some of this from Seattle before. There's no doubt in my mind, right? We've seen some of this before. And then when they do step up in competition, they usually kind of fold, especially when they got to go on the road to play the San Francisco 49ers or any other team, any other type of playoff team. So although they are talented, I like their roster, but at this point in the game, I will have to say they are contenders to me. All right, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Very interesting story here with them. Baker Mayfield playing really, really good. This team did not do a lot in the offseason. They just didn't. They just didn't do a lot in the offseason. So, hold on one second. Oh, sorry about that. That's live TV. But they didn't need to, right? You retained your quarterback. Your offensive talent is still pretty formidable. If you look at their running back, you look at their two wide receivers in Godwin and Mike Evans, very formidable team. And the defense is going to be good. It's for the most part, it's a defensive coach in what's his name again? Todd Boyles, right? Right. Um, I wasn't concerned with them. A lot of people probably were like, well, they didn't do much in the offseason. Well, sometimes you don't need to do a lot in the offseason. You just keep building on what you have, and I think they've done that. Now, like I mentioned before, with them, they're in the division with the Saints. It's going to be interesting because how are the Falcons going to play out there as well? I like this team. I really do like Tampa Bay. What I've noticed with them the last 2 weeks is that Baker Mayfield is not relying on the big plays. He's just making the right plays. And last week was a really good win against another playoff team, a team that they lost to last year in the divisional round, I believe it was, against the Detroit Lions, right? So to go on the road, underdogs, and to pull off that game, I think that shows a lot for me. It was a really gritty, gutty win. And I like where this team is going. So for me, I like the Buccaneers as being a contender in the National Football League. Now, we're going to find out more about them here as the season goes along, especially when they start matching up against those Saints or the Falcons and things of that nature. But I really like what they've done. I like how they took care of the Commanders in week 1, and I like what they did last week going into Detroit and taking that win too. So that tells me a lot, right? Sometimes, and I get it. When you play the weaker teams, depending on how it goes, you're supposed to beat them, but it's how you beat them. And I thought they did a really good job in both of those games. So I like them as a contender. All right. This is an interesting one. The Minnesota Vikings, new quarterback. The guy that they drafted, who they probably thought was going to play, got hurt, right? JJ McCarty. And here enters Sam Darnold. And now he's been playing well. But to be of note, the defense has also been playing well. Obviously destroyed the Giants. Last week against the Niners was a dominating performance. And I get it. 49ers were down Christian McCaffrey, right? But still, dominating performance. And Sam Darnold on the other hand, man, he's really been being really, really solid, being adequate. And we're going to see now, though, how it's going to play out because Justin Jefferson did leave that game last week with an injury. We're going to see how serious that injury is because that's going to determine the trajectory of this team. But I love the coach. I love what they're doing. But they do got some challenging games up ahead. They got the Texans today, which I believe is going to be an upset, right? You got Packers. And then the Jets, who are looking like they've improved, and Aaron Rodgers starting to get into the stride. And then the Lions, who although are struggling a little bit, right? The close win at home against the Rams in week 1. You lose last week to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I still think this team is still good, but these are tough games. Excuse me. So I do like this team. But I think at the end of the day, I think they're going to cool down a little bit. I think this team is a pretender. I just don't know, especially the status of Justin Jefferson, right? He got hurt last year, right? He's never really been majorly hurt, but he got hurt last year, and then already off the gates, he's already gotten hurt. So I think, although I do like what Sam Darnold's doing, but I just don't know. I really think that they if they have what it takes. So we got a question here from my boy DJ Zamora. He says, if the Vikings win today, are they the real deal? It'll definitely change my mind for sure. Because the Texans are one of the top, I would say top 3 teams in the National Football League, or hell, at least in the AFC for sure. That would change my mind. Right now, I picked them today. I'm jumping in early. I did pick them to win today. I think they got a lot going for them right now. But I don't know the sustainability of them moving forward, their schedule, and then the health of Justin Jefferson, because they're going to need him, right, in the long run. He's one of the most dominant wide receivers in the National Football League. And if he's going to be missing significant amount of time or not playing up to 100%, then I think that's going to be a problem. All right, we got another comment here. This is from the Buccaneers. He said, thoughts on Baker's comments, Tom Brady being in the building and having the intensity from everyone. I think that's good. I mean, anytime you get a GOAT like that around you, man, it only should raise the level of play around yourself, or just drive the competition, or bring the competition level out of you. So I'm okay with that. I really like that. So, all right. So there you have it. those are my contenders and pretenders. Honestly, I only had really one team, two teams is the pretenders, and it was the two AFC South teams. Um, and that's the Buccaneers and the Saints. The other teams can make some strides, right? But in the end, I feel a little bit more comfortable with the Saints and the Buccaneers. The Vikings are fringe because if DJ's like his question, he said, if they win today, are they the real deal? It'll turn a lot of heads. But I did pick that. I am picking them to win, but we'll have to wait and see. But all right. In further news this week, rather big news, I would say. Bryce Young. Sorry, I'm just dealing with allergies today, as you can tell. He got benched. Now, was it justifiable? I would say, yeah. The whole thing was just handled inappropriately, right? Head coach Dave Canales gets on the podium after last week's game is like, that's our guy, and we're going to continue to grow with him, yada 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 yada, right? All the talk offs, right? The corporate talk offs or the NFL coaching talk offs that they need to tell the media, right? And then literally less than 24 hours, he's like, oh yeah, we're moving on to Andy Dalton. Now, some of it is justifiable. Bryce Young to me has never really looked comfortable. And I know he's had 16, 17 games played now, but he just hasn't looked comfortable at all, right? It was a huge risk drafting him. He's severely undersized, doesn't have the physical attributes that you want in a starting NFL quarterback, right? So, but the Panthers took him. Now I know this regime didn't take him. The previous regime did, and they're no longer there anymore, and it's for good reason. And then you bring in Andy Dalton. So a couple questions, number one, how does this impact the team? How does it change? I think Andy Dalton is going to give them a little bit more juice, but not a lot. It's the reason why Andy Dalton's a backup in the National Football League. He's not meant to be a guy that's going to start 10 plus games for you anymore, right? That's not his deal, right? He's a guy to bridge a gap if your number one gets hurt. That's what he's there for a couple weeks, not what they're asking Andy Dalton to do. So I think today they may play a little bit better, right? But I hope they do, because I got guys like Deontay Johnson on my fantasy football team who I was hoping that he would go off, and I hope he goes off today. But they got a tough matchup in the Raiders. So, and then you look at the second question for me is the development of Bryce Young. What happens to him now, right? A lot of people are saying, well, it's a wrap for him. I think they're going to go back to him at some point because Andy Dalton is Andy Dalton. Like I just said before, he is a backup now, right? And they have no one else to go to. And if you look at what this organization has done at quarterback, or what they've done to quarterbacks in the last couple of years, it's been pretty rough, right? You go back to Baker Mayfield was there, or hell, even before that, Teddy Bridgewater went, and we all like Teddy Bridgewater. We thought he's very Mr. Consistent, right? We saw what he did in New Orleans for a couple of games when Drew Brees went down, right? He won a lot of games, but then he goes to Carolina and they suck, right? Baker Mayfield looked terrible, but look at him now. He's thriving, okay? It's Sam Darnold, right? Look what happened to him. He went there, right? Then he goes to the 49ers, and now he's in Minnesota. He's kind of doing his thing now. So overall, the development of Bryce Young, I think, I hate to say this, but I think it's pretty much done for him unless he somehow finds a way to get out of there, right? He's going to have to go somewhere that will allow him to sit, maybe watch and learn a little bit behind a solid veteran, and then maybe he'll get his chance again. But he has a lot of things going against him. Like I said before, the physical attributes in itself is that he's severely undersized. And Kyler Murray, but here's the thing. And I always talk about this with my boy DJ. When you're little like that, you have to be elite at something, right? Kyler Murray is little. We all get that. But Kyler Murray can throw that ball, and Kyler Murray can run. He's elite at two things. What can we say Bryce Young is elite at? Oh, his accuracy? I don't know, right? But when he looked great at Alabama, but why? Why? Because he had clean pockets. He had the best offensive lines that a team could have, right? And it's not a knock on him, but that's what it is. And he comes to the National Football League. You're not going to get that. You're not going to have the same talent. You're not going to be throwing to the same guys you've been throwing to in college. You're not going to have the protection. You're not going to have the running backs. You're not going to have everything at your disposal. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And granted, and trust me, I'm not letting the Panthers off the hook because I think the ownership there is negligent. The owner there, the David Tepper, probably don't need to be an owner. Probably one of the worst owners right now in the National Football League, for sure. So if I'm Bryce, I'm getting out of there. I have to force some type of trade, something. I can't play there anymore. If you have any chance of succeeding or making this a career at some point, he's gonna have to get out of here, and then we can really determine. But again, the likelihood of him being successful in the National Football League is very slim, uh, in my opinion. And then, like I said, then the other thing, the coaching, right? So I was very high on Dave Canales going into the season. If you go back and watch my preview on the AFC South, I was like, oh, okay. Did I think the Panthers were going to just go out and just go from worst to first? No, they don't. They're not built like that, right? But I thought Dave Canales would have been able to maybe retool Bryce Young a little bit, and we just haven't seen it. And they tried to go get offensive weapons by getting Deontay Johnson, the kid from South Carolina, Xavier Legette. They tried, right? But it's just not working out right now. So was it justified to bench him? I don't think they gave him enough time yet, right? This regime, right? The last regime, whatever, right? But I think they didn't want to lose this locker room, and I think there's guys in that locker room that are like, we'd rather play with Andy right now because he's going to give us a better chance to not lose a game, not necessarily win a game, if that makes sense, right? Whereas you put Bryce Young out there, you're just accepting the fact that you're going to lose because he hasn't really looked, really good. You can't win a National Football League and only throw for like 80 yards. You can't. I mean, that's just the rules of the engagement here. Like that, you cannot do that. So, do I think he got a fair shake? No, I didn't. But that's life. Unfortunately, he got drafted by the wrong team, and would have been different if he got drafted by someone else. We'll have to wait and see what happens to him. But definitely not a fair shake. But then I don't think he was ever going to live up to the expectation of being a number one draft pick. So the first overall draft pick. So I don't know. All right, let's read some comments real quick before we move on. Bryce, Tiny Dancer, Young will have to bulk up and study film. This isn't Alabama, right? I kind of just mentioned that. Doesn't have superior talent. I've been saying for months CJ Stroud would be a better quarterback. Yeah, we saw that. What's up, John Rivera? He says, let's go Jets. Yeah, hey, looking good against the Patriots, but we'll see. Patrick says, Carolina Panthers have yet to solve their internal issues. Yeah, pretty much. Dave Tepper, who's patient wears thin, but yeah, he does. Dave Tepper is not a good owner. He's just not a good owner. John says, you know how it goes, bro. If the coach and GM didn't draft him, they're going to make. Yeah, that's an excellent point. I mean, Dave Canales took this job, but he probably was like, well, okay, I'll try to work with him, but it's not working out. So we need to scrap this. And they're going to be in the market for a quarterback. I mean, Bryce Young will not be in a Carolina Panther uniform next year for sure. What's up, Barry? He says kid is bad, and he says receptacles are bigger. Yeah, I'm trying to be nice, but Bryce Young does not look like an NFL quarterback. I mean, he just doesn't. So, what people saw in him, I was always on CJ Stroud over Bryce Young. CJ Stroud to me was the better prospect. But that's drafting is not really necessarily a science. It's kind of an art too. It's a little bit of both, but some of the physical features of Bryce Young, I probably would have just stayed away from him from the jump. So, but that's just my opinion. All right, let's get into it. Week 3. Let's break down some of these games. Obviously, the Patriots and Jets. That game was a snoozer. You want to talk about boring games? That was boring, right? Like it was boring. Right. I know Aaron Rodgers had a really good game, but that was a boring ass game. I mean, it just was to be. So come on Thursday night, do better. And it's not so much it was the Jets' problem. It was just the matchup with the Patriots. Like, who wants to see that? Like, really? Like, I was not excited about that matchup at all. So if it was Jets, Steelers, maybe, I don't know. I'm just throwing out anybody other than the Patriots because Patriots are not going to score anytime soon. Matter of fact, I still think they're on the field looking to score right now. That's the report. Anyway, all right, moving on. All right, we got the Buccaneers at home taking on the Denver Broncos. Listen, Tampa Bay's defense is going to be able to stop this team. Bo Nix has not really looked great. Um, and their offense has really been conservative. And I'm talking about the Broncos right now. So at home, I get it. Last week was chaos, a lot of upsets. I just can't see this one. I don't think that the Broncos be able to score and move the ball against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. And I love what Tampa Bay's done on offense. Give me the Buccaneers in this one. All right, we got Chargers and Steelers. This is a big matchup for today. Two of my pretender teams. Both teams have relied on a very run-heavy strategy. That's where they're at right now. Steelers, to me, are the little better team on defense, so I'm going to go with the Steelers at home. If you're looking for a fun, exciting, innovative type of football from this game, this ain't the game for you. It's going to be a slugfest in the trenches. Two good offensive lines going at it, two defensive coaches going at it, or at least, well, I don't say defensive coaches, but two gritty, kind of grimy type of coaches, and Mike Tomlin and Jim Harbaugh. And we all know what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. And Mike Tomlin is almost built in that similar fashion. They want to run the football. But it's going to be a low-scoring affair, but I like the Steelers at home to pull out the win. In a close one, mind you. All right. Packers and Titans. Malik Willis will get the start against his former team. When asked about, is this like a revenge game, he kind of was like, he tried to downplay, which I get it, right? But you already know he's fired up. He's like, you guys basically gave up on me for this guy that puts mayonnaise in his coffee. That's what he's saying, right? So if the Packers can continue to produce an effective run game, which I think they can, and use that same game plan that they had last week against the Colts, there's no reason why they don't win this game. Because here's the thing, Will Levis is going to give you a turnover or two. That's a fact, right? Three things are going to happen today on Sunday. The sun will rise, which it has for you mostly on the West Coast. The sun will set, and Will Levis is going to turn the football over. That's just what it is. So expect that. So I like the Packers in this one, even though they're on the road. They're in a good spot. They're in a good spot right now, but I like the Packers. Bears and Colts. Very disappointing outcome so far for the Colts. I really had high hopes for them. They're 0-2. And their defense, to me, has just really been lackluster. I just don't get it. Now, and that was supposed to be their strong suit, their defense. And it really hasn't been. So you got the Bears who are reeling. Caleb Williams hopefully he's been soaking in an ice bath all week, because after the Texans got after him last week, he's probably super sore. But this one I think is going to be exciting because you have two two young quarterbacks that will make mistakes, but they'll take chances. Anthony Richardson is inconsistent. I really had high hopes for him, but it looks like it's not. I don't know if it's going to work out for him because he can't throw. And that's a problem when you're a quarterback, right? So he's shown glimpses, right? He's got arm talent, but he can throw a 55-yard post route, but he can't complete a 5-yard curl. Like I'm shaking my head. You can't see me, but I'm shaking my head on that one. And then you got Caleb Williams, who a lot of people are calling him a bust. I'm kind of like on 50-50. I'm on the fence with this one because he's got all the talent that you need as a quarterback, right? Granted, his offensive line sucks, right? A lot of people questioning Ryan Poles, the GM there, on taking like Roma Dunze when they probably could have went and got an offensive lineman to help bolster this team, because that's what you need. Football, I mean, I always say this, football is literally broken down into two phases, right? Or two things. Protect your quarterback, get after the other one. If you do those things very well, you will be more likely a successful team. And right now, the Bears cannot protect their quarterback, right? And Caleb Williams is finding out very quickly here that you cannot make some of the throws that you were making against Stanford, right, against an NFL football defense, right? He's learning that, that's where he's the best at, right? Outside the pocket, off script, and we're learning that. But anyway, as far as the pick is concerned, I think the Bears will get on track. I think they'll get the win column. I just kind of like them a little bit better. I like the Bears defense too, so I'm going to take the Bears to win. Texans and Vikings, I kind of already talked about this one already. This is my upset of the week. I still like the Texans to be one of the strongest teams in the NFL, but I think today they kind of slip up. They go on the road into a hostile environment. If you've never been to US Bank, I never have, but I know people that have. It's a very loud stadium. It can be very chaotic in there. And when they got that stupid horn going off, like It gets crazy in there. It's going to be a close match, but I like the Vikings in the end because I feel like the Texans defense can be had at this point, right? They got some, and especially if Justin Jefferson is out there, there's going to be a problem for them. So if I'm going to give them the slight edge, I'm going to go with the upset and give the Vikings the win. All right, Eagles and Saints. Biggest question is, can the Eagles defense keep up with the pace of the Saints offense? That's been the case for the last two opponents that they've had, right? And the answer is no, they haven't. Eagles defense is, listen, Eagles won that game in Brazil, but outside of Eagles fans, you have to look at that and say, really wasn't that of a great performance, right? They probably should have lost that game. The Packers didn't capitalize in week 1 on some of the turnovers that they had early in that game, and they let the Eagles hang around, right? Last week, the Eagles blew that lead in the end on Monday night, right, to the Falcons. Jalen Hurts does not look great. He does not look great still. So I don't think he's going to get any better. They're going to win some football games because they're just talented, right? But today you're facing a team that has murder on their mind, okay? And they're at home. They're revved up. They're ready to go. I like the Saints in this one. I think this is going to be a really good game, but I like the Saints to win this one. All right, Giants versus Browns, kind of a snoozer in my opinion, not a great matchup. Giants has just been struggling offensively, and they're struggling in pass protection, and that's not something you want to be struggling when you got guys like Myles Garrett on the other side, right? So I like the Browns pretty much to dominate this game. If the Browns don't dominate the Giants, then there's a problem with the Browns, right? They got a good win last week against Jacksonville. Don't follow up by not dominating a team that's inferior than you. So I like the Browns in this one. Panthers and Raiders. This is a clutch pick of the week too. Listen, Raiders coming off a very, very great win last week against the Ravens on the road. You got the lowly Panthers. So don't fall asleep at the wheel. I'm not saying Andy Dalton's going to come in and just be like the red rifle of but you just never know. Sometimes when you have a switch like that, it gives some juice to that club. Now, I think earlier on, Panthers may put up a good fight, but in the end, the Raiders should be better than them to take over. So I like the Raiders to cover in this particular game, to cover the spread here, but they should win decisively because the Raiders defense is good, which I knew they were going to be good. It's going to be their offense. And if they can figure out their offense, they'll be even better, especially in the running game. So, but I like the Raiders to cover this game. All right, 49ers and Rams. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. The Rams are just depleted everywhere. So if the Niners, I know they're missing some guys too, Debo and Christian McCaffrey, but you still got other dudes too. Who Matthew Stafford, I don't know who the hell he's throwing to this week. I think I got a few missed calls on my phone. Maybe the Rams called out and reached out to me, but I don't have no idea who he's throwing to. So give me the 49ers and SoFi to win this one over their division rivals in the Rams. Dolphins and Seahawks, no Tua, right? Skylar Thompson steps in. Seattle's very good at home. You got to win this game, right? They don't have one of their better players, especially at the quarterback position. You got to win this game, right? So that's going to be that's a key for me. If Tua was there, this would be, I'd probably lean more towards the Dolphins, but playing in the Pacific Northwest is a very tough thing to do. So, but yeah, then you're down your quarterback. Team is kind of reeling a little bit, right? That shellacking they took last week Thursday to the Buffalo Bills. Give me the Seahawks in this one. I like them there. So I like the Seahawks in this game. All right, Ravens and Cowboys. Oh, I didn't even change my I always do that. All right, Ravens and Cowboys, and it's another clutch pick of the week. Listen, you guys, those who follow me, have been a lifelong Cowboys fan, but I've come to my point where I'm sick of this team. No heart, no championship grit, just a disaster walking. And I'm not surprised they got blown out last week, right? And I'm not going to be surprised today that they lose this game. And I have the Ravens winning this game. I don't think the Ravens want to go 0-3, right? This is a big matchup for the Cowboys as well. You're at home. You're coming off a really bad loss. They still have glaring problems that they did not address, right? You're one injury away from CeeDee Lamb going down and being an inept offense. You have no running game whatsoever. Your defense is full of guys that are just led by Micah Parsons. So Micah Parsons is talented in spots. Here's the thing with Dallas Cowboys. This is what I learned about Dallas Cowboys. Okay, hear me out. And I'm kind of getting on the soapbox here, but I'll give you my prediction, which you probably already know. The Cowboys have a lot of really good situational players. What do I mean by that? Well, when you look at Micah Parsons versus TJ Watt, right? TJ Watt has established himself as one of the most dominant defensive players. Why? You watch this guy week in and week out create havoc for other teams' offenses. Micah Parsons, dude, sometimes you forget that he's even on the field. Why? And then he's gonna go back on his podcast and say, "Oh, I was held," and just the dumbest stuff ever. And that's why I'm out on him. He's a very talented individual. Don't get me wrong, but situationally, right? I think I read a stat. This guy has. I know they haven't played a lot of playoff games, but he's only had like 1 sack in the playoff games he's been there. So he's not this guy that people think he is, right? And a lot of people may give me crap for that, but it is what it is, right? He's not Myles Garrett. He's not TJ Watt. And I compare him to TJ Watt because they're kind of like built the same. Like Myles Garrett is like a true D end, right? TJ Watt is like a linebacker who's converted himself to be one of the greatest edge rushers we've had in the National Football League, right? And my boy said, Barry, he said he is the biggest baby on the team, right? He is. I have no faith in him. He will never show up in big games when you need him. And a guy I do like, and a guy I do love, right? But he drives me crazy too, is Dak Prescott, who's a very situational player too, right? You're not going to get consistent play from Dak Prescott, unfortunately. And I like the guy. I like his story. Okay. And that's why I will root for him. He doesn't cry. He carries the blame a lot more probably sometimes than he should. And some of it is his fault too, right? But he's inconsistent and he's a situational guy, right? And then CD Lamb is probably the only one that kind of comes out in place all the time. You can count on him, and they have to. So this team is not built for success. And then you got the Ravens coming in. They're a much stronger-minded team mentally. Their coach is better, right? Their organization is better, right? The Cowboys will not be effective today, right? But here's the caveat to this. This is why I can't stand the Cowboys right now, because they could win this game, and then everyone's gonna be like, all right, they're back, and then they'll lose next week to somebody. That's just what the Cowboys do. That's exactly what they do. So they're probably one of the most inconsistent teams in sports as of today. So, but I'm picking them to lose. I just don't think the Ravens are going to go 0-3, right? If you guys saw my NFL matchup show at my Real or Not segment, I don't think that this team is going to go 0-3. I think they're going to get the job done, right? And I think it'll be a close game, but I think in the end, Micah Parsons and the rest of them are just going to choke and not show up. So there you have it. All right. There's my soapbox. I promise myself not to get passionate about that, but I just do because I've given the Cowboys so many years of my life. These fools just piss me off, and I get tired of them, and I'm sick of them. I'm really sick of the Cowboys, if you didn't know. You guys can call me the cynical Cowboy fan because that's where I'm at. I'll support them, right? Because I've earned that right. But at the end of the day, I'm just like, I'm sick of these fools. I'm tired. So anyway, all right. Lions and Cardinals, this is going to be a fun one. Man, if I had any game I want to sit down and just watch today, it's going to be this one. I think this is going to be an offensive shootout. Anytime the Cardinals are involved, you think it should be high scoring, right? You saw what they did last week to the Rams. You got the Lions coming in who are reeling. I think both teams can get after it, right? But I'm going to go with the Cardinals to win this game. I think they're at home. I think I might have switched my pick. I think I had the Lions winning before on NFL matchups early, but then I had some time to think, and I was like, you know what? I can get a mulligan on this one. I like the Cardinals at home only because they're at home, right? If you've never been to that stadium, people don't think of Arizona as being like it's not a hostile environment. I will say that, but it's loud in there. When they get that little red wave rise up, whatever deal that they got going on there, it gets pretty hectic in there. So, and if the Cardinals are doing, and like I said, Kyler Murray's been playing really good football. Him, like Derek Carr, guys like that, man, they're up there for NFL MVP conversation early. And don't kill me in the comments. I said early, right? Still got a ways to go, but he's been playing really good football. And if him and Marvin Harrison Jr. can continue on what they were doing last week, man, look out for the Cardinals. So it's going to be a shootout, but I like the Cardinals to win only because they're at home. All right, Sunday matchup. This is a big one for the Atlanta Falcons, coming off a really good win last week. Kirk Cousins exercised some of his demons on primetime football by beating the Eagles. Now you got the defending two-time Super Bowl champs coming into town. I think this is going to be another high-scoring performance. But I think in the end, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are still one of those teams where they don't look good all the time. It doesn't look pretty, but they still find a way. And that's what championship caliber teams do. It's not always going to be great, right? It's not always going to be looking great. It's not going to be perfect, but they still find a way. And Travis Kelce still hasn't really made an impact on this team yet, right? We're still waiting for that. The only thing is that Isaiah Pacheco, they're going to miss him for a couple weeks, but I don't think they're going to miss him this week. But I still think they get the job done. This is a good matchup for Sunday Night Football. Yes, this is better than the Thursday night debacle that we had in the Jets and the Patriots. So, but I like the Chiefs on the road to improve to 3-0. I think it's going to be a sporting game, but I like the Chiefs. All right, Jaguars and Bills. Two Monday night games. This one I was like, I mean, the other one ain't that great, better either. But hey, it's football, right? So you got the Jaguars and the Bills. Listen, it's really pretty much Josh Allen versus the Jaguars, right? And I'll take my chances with Josh Allen. So pretty simple there. The Jaguars are inconsistent to me. Good win last week against the Browns, but something about Trevor Lawrence and that team, I don't got a good feeling about them. But I like the Bills at home, even though the Bills are missing some guys. It's Josh Allen over everybody there. So he's the guy. He's the playmaker. He's the dynamic goer. He's the one I'm relying on. So I'm betting on the Josh Allen to win over the Jaguars. So I'll give me that. And Commanders versus Bengals. This is kind of like a lackluster game too. Right? Really, I mean, Bengals really good performance last week. Didn't finish the job against the Chiefs, right? So hopefully they can kind of get back on schedule, get back on track there. But you know, the thing with the Bengals, they got to minimize the mistakes. And that killed them last week down the stretch. The mistakes, stupid mistakes. So Commanders not going to be as good, right? You know, Jaden Daniels is still learning how to be a quarterback in the National Football League. Not surrounded really with a lot of talent there. This should be a game the Bengals should win. So I like the Bengals at home on Monday night to win this one there. So there you have it. All right. Let's go over power rankings because I skipped it, right? So let's go over week 3 power rankings right now before we wrap up the show. Number 1, I still got the Chiefs, right? They are the champs until they're beaten, and so far no one's beaten them yet, so I still got them there. I like the Texans coming in at number 2. Offensively, you know, they got talent. Now, Joe Mixon, I think, is nursing an injury. I'm not sure what his status is today, but I still like them, right? The Bills, right? Josh Allen, like he's the only reason why. If he goes down, they're cooked. They're cooked. I got them at number 3. I like the Saints coming at number 4. The way they've been able to score the football and play defense at the same time. Minus missing some guys, like Marshawn Lattimore didn't even play last week. Okay, they still got the job done. Minnesota Vikings, I got them in the top 5 there. Although I know I have them as pretenders over a team that I think is a contender in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's kind of like a what's the word? It's kind of like a I'm hoping that they're contenders, but we'll leave it at that, right? I got Tampa Bay, who I think is a contender. I think, you know, they got what it takes there. I got them at number 6. The 49ers have slid down, right? Some injuries have really kind of plagued them a little bit right now. So will they be able to overcome that? We'll see. Seattle got them number 8. I like what they're doing. Geno Smith is playing pretty consistent. I like their wide receiving core. Talked about that there. Lions struggling a little bit. I know they're 1-1, but that game against the Rams was a little bit too close for my comfort, but I still got them. And I got the Chargers. The Chargers are in there. I think they're moving up. Why I have them over the Steelers is that their quarterback is better right now, right? The Steelers are 2-0 too, right? But I just don't. That whole quarterback situation for me in the Steelers is not appetizing to me. It's a little concerning where I feel like the Chargers have a guy that has more potential to throw the football, could get the job done. So I got them there at number 10 there. So Cowboys are out. They can kiss my behind. I had them on here last week. After you get shellacked like that, you're out of there. I don't have the Ravens on there. You know that they lost a game where you were favored -9. If you don't bet right, and if I say 9.5, winning by a touchdown in the National Football League is hard. Okay. To be 9.5, that means you were a heavy favorite. And to lose to the Raiders, that wasn't a good look. So I had to get them out of there. But we'll see if they can get back on track today. What do you call it? The Cowboys. Against the Cowboys, excuse me. So we'll have to wait and see. All right. Let me get you my clutch picks of the week before we get up out of here. We got the Minnesota Vikings in the upset over the Texans today. I got the Baltimore Ravens going on the road and beating the Dallas Cowboys in a close one. And I got the Seattle Seahawks against the Miami Dolphins covering in that one, and as well as the Raiders covering the spread against those Carolina Panthers and Andy Dalton. So let's read some comments before we get up out of here. And I have one thing to say before I get out of here. Let's see. Patrick Brown says the Cowboys play down to their competition, but fold against great teams. This is true. Nobody challenges within the Cowboys organization rather than its players or coaches. It starts and ends with Jerry Jones, right? That's a fact. Patrick also follows up and says, winning went out the door when Jimmy Johnson was fired. Now we have the Cowboys legends and greats questioning America's team's moniker, right? So, hey, what's up, Tyler? Appreciate you. And he says, let's go Chiefs. There you have it. So, but yeah, so, it is what it is. I don't put any much stock into the Cowboys anymore as I used to, because they'll just let you down, man, every single time. So, but before I get out of here, man, I want to shout out my boy Demler Zamora. All in favor of your winner by unanimous decision, TJ. I want to shout out my boy Demler Zamora Jr. He is undefeated. He had a big fight last on Friday night on Top Rank. So, shout out to him and his family, man. He's doing big things there, and continue to keep winning, man. We love you. We appreciate you, man, and keep working hard. You're setting a good example for your family, and it's inspiring us all. So he's 14-0. Big fight. And I think he's looking to fight again in November. So if you don't know him, look him up right now. Demler Zamora Jr. III. He's all over the place. So make sure you check him out. He's up and coming. So you heard it here first on here on NFL Sunday Wake Up. So, all right. That's it. That's all the time I got for today, man. Thank you guys for dropping in. Appreciate you guys in the comment section. As usual, make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to Clutch Sports Talk Podcast on YouTube, as well as head over to the Grid Network. Enjoy the games, man. That's all I got. I got to go. Until next time, this is your boy Ryan Flowers, a.k.a. Clutch Sports Talk. Like I always say, never settle till the work is done. We'll see you guys next time. Oh, make sure Wednesday, NFL matchups too. Peace.